The arranger and conductor of the music for Macmillan's Mayerling was John Lanchbury.
Kenneth said the composers that you can use, according to the research I've done, are either Brahms or Bruckner or Mahler. And I said, no, you know who it should be, Kenneth, it should be Liszt. I went through the 12 orchestral tone poems of Liszt and the hundreds, well, thousands of piano pieces. I took a whole month just doing that, listening to the music alone. And Liszt is very, very much the right period, as a matter of fact. Liszt died just a few years before the Mayerling incident took place. Don't forget that at that time Austria and Hungary were really part of the same empire. Liszt, the great champion of the Hungarians, I mean actually the Hungarians figure quite largely in the story of Mayerling. And incidentally, there is in existence a picture painted of Rudolph, aged 17, with Franz Joseph the Emperor and the Empress Elizabeth actually listening to a piano recital played by Liszt himself, which I think is a sort of magic tie-up with the composer.
Lanchbury's selections from Franz Liszt's work are often appropriate for their contemporary associations.
For example, the scene with Rudolph and his mother, the Empress Elizabeth, I found a suitable piece of music which Liszt had actually written for the wedding album of that very woman, the Empress Elizabeth. Rudolph's obsession with a gun was terribly important in this whole story, and actually the first theme I thought of, the opening of Liszt's Faust Symphony, which is a marvellous sort of mysterious... Kenneth wanted a scene in a sleazy, smoky tavern. Now, a piece that's sometimes known as Mephisto Waltz No. 1, Liszt actually composed as a scene in a tavern when the devil comes to tempt Faust in two scenes from Linnell's Faust, it's called, and it's usually, as I say, called the Mephisto Waltz. You know, that's the devil tuning up his violin.
At the start of the second act, Rudolph has now been married for 5 years, and he's openly visiting the sort of tavern that gets raided by the police to see his old friend, the courtesan Mitzi Casper, danced by Laura Connor. Rudolph's compulsive promiscuity, which comes out very well in the ballet. Is that true, too?
Yes, it is true.
It's rather desperate.
Yes, it is.
As desperate as compulsive, isn't it?
His sex education consisted of a visit to a fish breeding farm, and then he went to Paris, and I think got venereal disease almost instantly. Mitzi Casper, who was his mistress for a very long time, she was really a high-class prostitute, and when Rudolph was sent to Belgium to meet Stephanie, his bride, for the first time, he took Mitzi Casper with him, and she was lodged out in the town.
His own promiscuity makes him no more tolerant of his parents' open affairs. Among his mother's lovers was the Englishman Bay Middleton, called Bay after his horse. The decadence of the court around him was one of the factors in Rudolph's mental decline. At a birthday party for the Emperor, Rudolph looks on in disgust as his mother flirts with her English admirer, Captain Middleton, David Drew. He controlled his venereal disease with morphine, didn't he?
Yes, more it's in the later years. But this is why he and Stephanie only had one child. And she also got venereal disease from him.
I find him a very sympathetic character, although he's debauched and, he has syphilis and various other diseases. To me, the sort of basis of it all was his childhood, from the years, when he was born until perhaps 17. I found that understanding those years of his life helped me very much to portray the reasons and the anxieties that he obviously went through in later life. The hardest thing, in fact, for me was not so much the debauched side of Rudolph and the syphilitic side, the drug addict side, but it was the sympathetic side that I found the most difficult, in fact, to portray to the audience, because the power of the pas de deux that Kenneth gave us sort of almost spoke for themselves. But the other side, the sympathetic side, was a side I very much wanted to put forward to the audience. And hopefully we've succeeded. I don't think the audience will go away thinking that he's a total monster. I mean, I hope they feel very sad for him.
A disastrously unhappy marriage, contempt for the court and his parents, political intrigue, physical and mental illness, all drove Rudolph to ask Mitzi Casper to die with him. She refused. At this moment, he met a 17-year-old Mary Wetzera. She was introduced to him by a former mistress, the Countess Marie Lariche. The Countess, unable to continue her own affair with Rudolph and be accepted at court, became a procuress, introducing girls to him and bringing them to his private apartment at the Hofburg. Mary Wetzera, Lynn Seymour.
I don't think there was much substance to her as a character. It's hard to say, I mean, how intelligent or anything she was. She was obviously totally single-minded, a terrific social climber. Not altogether a sort of terrific person, I don't think. Very young and socially ambitious, and with a mother who was also the same. So she was, in many ways, she had no other choice to make other than these opportunities that were presented to her. And she obviously made the best of them by persuading herself that she was totally in love and completely infatuated and wanted to die for him. I think it's as simple as that, really.
At the age of 16, she'd already had an affair in Egypt and was sent back home to Vienna. So she wasn't a virgin when she met Rudolph. And I think she had very romantic, dramatic ideas. I think she was probably very theatrical. And the idea of dying with the crown prince, you know, was ecstasy for her. It was the ultimate orgasm.
It didn't always happen in the sequence that I put it in the ballet story. And I've used certain events and put them into another context. For instance, Mary Wetzera went to a fortune teller when she was about to have her affair with Rudolph. Well, I turned this into a telling of the cards by the Countess Lariche, who was the go-between for Rudolph and Mary.
Mary Wetzera had fallen in love with Rudolph some time before, but at a distance. Her mother, the Baroness Helene Wetzera, took Mary to every social event in the calendar in an attempt to get acceptance at court. They lived in an elegant rented townhouse in Vienna. Countess Lariche brought Mary to the Hofburg for the first time on the 5th of November, 1888.
When Rudolph and Mary Wetzel eventually come together, we see how she absolutely lives up immediately to his fantasies, since among her first actions is the seizing of the gown and the threatening with it. It is as if two fantasists meet and find that they share the same fantasy. This is the most explicit, erotic part that he's ever written. It is also one of the most beautiful.
Yeah, coming down wasn't so good. No, I want you to let go.
Yes.
And risk breaking a head. To go,
Needn't be anything.
no,
Yes.
you better do the nine, had you? You better do the whole
Yes.
roly-poly. Yeah. You see, Lynn, I want to get there by 9 and then go into your other position on 10, 11, 12. You see, you're doing it all in one. The thing about this scene, Lynn, you haven't seen the scene with him and his wife, who's complete opposite to you. I mean, she's terrified of him, and you're not a bit frightened. Completely the opposite. That's why he likes you. He's met his match.